If you're a freelancer or a business owner, I bet you've experienced this loop of death before. You work like crazy to sell a project, and then once you've done that, you have to work even harder to actually deliver it. But that means you don't have any time to focus on selling anymore. So when the project's over, you need to go back to the panic selling mode. The problem is the cycle never ends. Or does it? Let's look back at how Chris Do managed to break this cycle by going from agency owner to influencer. In case you don't know, Chris is the founder and CEO of a company called The Futur. Chris has over 550,000 followers on Instagram, and on YouTube, The Futur have over 1 million subscribers. And not only that, they have a very bold mission. It's to teach 1 billion people how to make a living doing what they love. I want to tell you the full story of how Chris transformed his business and his life. But first, let's go back a little bit, because he used to run a design agency called Blind. It was very successful. They won awards and also worked with major clients like Nike, Sony, and Audi. But now Chris spends most of his time on another company he created called The Futur. You should know by now that one of my favourite tools for telling this type of story is the business model canvas by Strategyzer. And you can check out this video up here that I'll put a link to that I made that explains how the business model canvas works in quite a lot of detail, and it's quite a fun video as well. So in the book, The Invincible Company, Alex Osterwalder talks about business model patterns. And what Chris has done is a really good example of one. It's called a Frontstage Driven Shift. And it's a big change to who you target and how your products and services are delivered to them. Chris has gone from a niche market with his agency Blind to a mass market with The Futur, because comparatively there aren't that many major global brands to work with. There are far more creatives out there that he can work with The Futur, which is just as well because he's aiming to help 1 billion people as part of his mission, right? So first, let's look at how his design agency used to work. It was a pretty standard business model. The target customers were global brands, so big companies. And the value proposition was based around helping these companies launch new products. So that could be anything from designing logos to producing commercials or filming corporate videos. The main channel he used back then to get to customers was his sales reps. And the revenue came in the form of project fees. So every time they delivered a project, they got paid for it. The key activities were selling and delivering projects for clients. And it sounds like Chris didn't have too many problems here. But so many companies get caught up in the selling, delivering loop of death that I showed you earlier. And this is one of the flaws of this type of agency model. In terms of the key resources, they had a very niche brand. So Blind was known by people in the industry, but it wasn't very widely known outside of that. On top of that, another key resource they had were their designers that enabled them to actually deliver those projects. And then finally, for the cost structure, they just mainly had to pay salaries of the people in their team. Another challenge of this business model is that it's not very scalable. You have a niche target market, in this case, big global brands, and it's very complicated in terms of delivering the value proposition. You basically have to solve a new challenge for every customer. So that means that you can't actually reuse any of your previous work. You're starting from scratch every time. With The Futur, instead of focusing on such a niche target audience like global brands, he focused on a much wider audience, creative people who wanted to make a living doing work they love. And what he had to do, therefore, was simplify his value proposition so that he could deliver it to customers without having to massively scale his team. And so his value proposition was creative educational content that enabled his customers to make a living doing the work that they love. And the main channel that he used to deliver this was YouTube. The revenue streams are super interesting. I could make a whole video about this, but just quickly and on a high level, and there's certainly more than what I'll cover here, there are 3 main ones. Number 1, he's offering his YouTube videos for free, so it's important to mention that and include that here, because that's what allows the other revenue streams to come in as well. He makes money from the courses that he sells and his digital products as well, which he does not via YouTube, but then via his website. And the good thing about this is he can make money from these digital products while he sleeps. So this whole shift on the front stage of his business model means that he also needs to move some things around on the backstage of his business model as well. The key activity now is content creation. And the key resources have gone from being a niche market brand with Blind to a mass market brand with using the Futur. Chris also has a massive personal brand, which is something that I think we all need to do if we want to grow our businesses as well. Lastly, the cost structure hasn't changed that much because I think a lot of the people in his team he was able to retain because they were able to transfer the skills that they already had to moving to the new business model. So that worked out pretty well in this case. This next thing is really important because there were 4 main changes that Chris made to his business model that enabled him to go from an agency owner to an influencer. Number 1, he went from a niche market to a mass market. Number 2, he simplified his offering, his value proposition. Number 3, he created a whole new brand and also elevated his personal brand at the same time. And number 4, he focused on delivering free content, which enabled him to build a funnel for his paid courses and digital assets. If you want to make a similar transformation to Chris Do, then these are some of the changes that you want to think about making in your own business. If you found this video useful, here's another one to check out too, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.